Hello.
Hello, Jim.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, this is Anthony calling from Innovation and Tech Today. How are you today?
Very good.
I've been excited about this. We've always been talking about, actually, it's so weird, before this interview, we kind of always reference your classic, the Robotnik voice from Sat AM here at the office. So it's kind of funny, we kind of always talk about that. So it's great to have the opportunity to talk to you.
Oh, great. Very good. You must be a friend of Snivelly's. I knew it. Good hedgehog. Yes. Oh, gosh. I'm always amazed that he's still kind of, he garners attention still whenever I go to a convention or so. I mean, it's just kind of unbelievable.
Well, it's kind of because part of it's because that's one of those shows that I think everyone kind of wants to come back to.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those iconic voices that, just everyone keeps in their head as well.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah.
And may they continue.
Absolutely. Well, just kind of to get started off here, how did you first get into voice acting?
Oh, gosh. Well, I kind of always was, just in the sense that, I was in first grade and I'd be doing the dolphin noises or, anything like that. And I always knew that, I remember, I'd get in trouble for it, but I thought to myself, well, if I can do it like this guy Mel Blanc on TV and Paul Winchell, maybe I won't get in trouble anymore and I won't have to stand in the corner, that kind of thing. So, I gave it a shot, and I was always in plays, and it was always a fun thing, and I just kind of developed it, and it was just sort of a natural path for me. I don't think I made a conscious decision. It was almost like I think I'll do that.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And here I am.
Very cool. Do you remember your very first kind of voiceover job or very first project you worked on?
Well, the first thing I ever did was Dumbo Circus, as far as anybody paying me to do it. So.
Awesome.
Yep, there you have it. Yeah, that was 1984 or no, 85, and it was off to the races.
Absolutely. Well, the piece that I'm doing is kind of focused more just kind of on, the voice, the art of, voice acting. And I guess, what do you think makes it so different from other art forms?
Oh, gosh. Well, I think it's great because you can, I always joke around and I'll say, well, anybody can win an Oscar or an Emmy if they can use their face, so you have to get that, you have to be able to squint, you have to be able to be surprised, and, all the emotions that are normally conveyed, of course, it is animated, so it's not completely in the dark, so to speak, but you have to put all that in your voice, and, the strategic pauses and things like that, it has to be indicated all through the one single instrument.
Right.
And it has to be conveyed right directly to your ears, but it has to open up, appeal to all the senses in the same sense that, watching a movie would, and you have to give it that extra amount of juice that, and plus you're inspiring the animator to draw that, what he hears, and a lot of people think that you do the whole thing is done by looping. Mm-hmm. In other words, like you're standing in front of a big screen and you're looping to the screen on the character on screen, but we do it all first. And if you think about it, you can't really draw comedic time, but once you hear it, then you can.
Right.
And so, it all has to be in the voice. It all has to be in that performance. And from there, it inspires the animators, and then you're off to the races.
Yeah, I think there's, not a lot of people know kind of how that process works. I think some people think it's animated first. Some people don't really know, kind of how the whole assembly line of it works. That's really interesting. That's kind of, I think that's cool that, how animators and voice actors work together that way.
Oh, yeah, sure, yeah. You definitely collaborate them, often, especially with a movie and or a video game, and oftentimes just regular animation, you'll see that, they'll either they'll put a video camera in the room, and they'll videotape you doing it, and that gives them, the animators, even a little extra boost, because they'll see, oh, so he was going, or whatever.
Right.
And it's just kind of interesting. And then they'll take that back, and they'll listen to the track and watch your face and watch your body language while you're doing it, too. And then that's just more grist for the mill, more further inspiration.
Totally. Well, kind of keeping along that theme, what do you think is the biggest misconception about being a voice actor, or kind of the art of voice acting?
Oh, I don't know. I think sometimes people think, so all you have to do is read, huh?
Mm-hmm.
And I go, yep, that's all you have to do.
Right.
Just read it like it's a phone book, and that's all you're doing.
Totally.
But I think also that a lot of times people will say, well, I think I'll, get into voice acting. I'm just going to do it part-time. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, I can promise you will. It takes a full-time commitment to even come close to a part-time career. Mm-hmm. Because I think everybody can read and everybody can speak, and so they think, therefore it's, a pretty easy thing to do. And it's like, well, everybody can pick up a guitar and probably pluck the strings, but you might not be Stevie Ray Vaughan or
right.
Jimi Hendrix.
Absolutely.
Not that any of us are, but it's just one of those misconceptions. If you, and the idea is to make it look easy, but that doesn't mean it is.
Right. And along those lines, what is the most difficult part of being a voice actor?
Well, I don't know. Just steady work, I suppose.
Right. Like you said, you say you're going to be part-time, and you definitely will be part-time.
Yeah, that's for sure.
That's interesting. Huh.
Well, it just takes a full-time commitment to get anywhere.
Now, throughout your career, I know we talked a little bit about Robotnik earlier, but is there one character that's been your absolute favorite to perform?
No, there's several. I always gravitate to Pooh and Tigger, and they're special in their own way. They're kind of set aside because they're just traditional characters that have come from bedtime stories, A.A. Milne, and they're kind of evergreen. They're not tied to any fad or anything like that. But and then from there, I always have loved Darkwing. Darkwing's one of my all-time favorites, and more recently, Ray from Princess and the Frog, that's for sure, and certainly Hondo Ohnaka. From, of course, I could be here all day. I'll walk, because then, I'm thinking of King Louie right now, and let's see, Don Carnage, and there's Pete, and it's like trying to name your kids. They're all my favorites, but some stick out, that's for sure.
Absolutely. And with kind of some of those, you were talking about how, evergreen a lot of those characters are. Do you kind of just look at a character, read the script? What makes you kind of find that perfect voice for a character?
Well, you work with the animators, you work with the director, you work with the producer, the writer. Mm-hmm. Like I always say that Tad Stones and Ginny McSwain are mother and father and mother, respectively, of Darkwing Duck. Right. And it's a molding process, you'll be thinking, well, is he super big? No. Is he tiny? No. Well, okay. That narrows it down a little bit, and then you just kind of mix in the personality traits that they're looking for. And like I say, I think of it as molding. I've always thought it's always struck me as that way. It's not necessarily a recipe, but it's kind of like sculpting something. And when you're done, how's that look? Oh, okay, good.
Right.
And it's kind of nice. It's kind of fun. It's one of my favorite things.
Definitely. Darkwing was always kind of one of my favorites, especially the kind of the enthusiasm when he would say the little, I am the blank that blank, when he would do
indeed.
That was always the best part of the show for me.
Oh, great. Yeah. Well, it was funny because we started off and about 8 or 9 shows in, because I tend to ad-lib a lot. I do a lot of improv or ad-lib, and it would be, I am the terror that flaps in the night. And then the writer would say, it doesn't matter what I write here, Jim's going to say something else anyway. I am Duckwing Duck.
That's awesome.
And then it would say, one of the lines ended up being, just have Jim make something up here. And it was like, okay.
I think my absolute favorite is, I am the parking meter that expires while you shop. I think that's got to be number one. Number one
right.
for me.
Yes, absolutely.
Kind of on the other hand, is there one character you've never voiced that you think would be kind of a good fit for you?
No.
There's never been one that kind of you thought you could.
No.
Yeah.
Because by the time somebody else is doing it, it's theirs,
Right.
And then that would be tantamount to envy and
right.
Don't have time.
Absolutely. Very cool. Well, I do have one last question for you. I mean, is there any kind of advice you'd give to aspiring voice actors?
Yes, indeed. Remember to be a sponge. Just be a sponge. Absorb the mannerisms and if your mailman's got a quirky sound, or your third grade teacher, or your neighbor, or fill in the blank.
Yeah.
You can hold on to that. I've always said that if you do a perfect impression of somebody that everybody knows, that's great. And if you do an impression of someone that everybody knows and nobody knows who you're doing, that's great too, because that's a new character. Mm-hmm. And if you do a perfect impression of someone that nobody will ever hear of in 1,000 years, that's good. That's a new character. And just put them all together. And because I always say I've had my dear departed Aunt Grace in a couple of cartoons because I was doing an impression of her. And it's obviously not going to sound exactly like her, but it didn't matter because it was a new character. That kind of thing. And my Uncle Sam, same way. He was a bit of an ogre and a dragon. Right. And that's just how he talked. And the whole world is your palette. You could take a little shade or two from everyone for that matter, and come up with different characters that way. And I always say that, people say, well, you do this voice or that voice. Well, I want to put the voice with a small v. And because basically, we're character actors. These are their voices, sure, but they're characters first, and characters gets a capital C, because the character comes first, and when they talk, well, that's just how they sound.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of my philosophy.
Right, and I think that actually goes back to probably a lot of the misconceptions that kind of spring up around voice acting as well.
It could be, yeah, sure.
Totally. Well, thank you again for taking the time to speak with me today. I was speaking with my editor earlier, and he said just ask him if he'll say the name of the magazine in Robotnik's voice. And I said, I don't know. Maybe we'll see how it goes if we have some time.
Sure.
Would that be all right?
It would be absolutely just 100% fine.
Perfect.
So here, if you give me the script, and I'll read it on out for you.
Oh, just Innovation and Tech Today is the name of the magazine.
Oh, okay. So Innovation and Tech Today, okay? Mm-hmm. Ladies and gentlemen, the doctor is in. Now I want all of you to pay attention carefully. And I want you to read from corner to corner. If you have to do it online, fine. But Innovation and Tech Today magazine. Repeat it with me. Innovation and Tech Today magazine, you little weasels. I'll check back with you. And Anthony's got his eye on you. Robotnik out.
Oh my gosh, this has absolutely made my week, just so you know. Oh man.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
Like I pictured it.
Oh yeah, that was perfect.
Oh, very good, Anthony. Well, I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah, absolutely. And yes, thank you again.
Excellent.
All right.
Fantastic. Okay, bye-bye.
All right, bye.